cars can be an expression of the time and of your personality. And some people in this business are rock stars, legends. I have Gene Winfield here with me. Good morning, Gene.
Good morning,
I'm so
Kelly.
glad you're here with me.
Thank you.
I'll tell you what, I've had to push people away to get an interview with you today here at Autorama 2020.
Yeah.
And because you have such a long career, a legendary career in this field,
Yes.
customizing cars.
Yes, that's
and
true.
not just for your own customers, but
Right.
for movie sets.
Yes.
Yes. Tell me a little bit about your career.
Well, let me tell you how I got my foot in the door at Hollywood.
Okay.
I put my.
How old were you at this time?
Oh, I don't know, probably 21 or
Okay.
But anyway, I put my car called the Reactor on a trailer, on an open trailer, and I towed it from Modesto, California to LA, which is about 340 miles. So I got there, I didn't know anybody, anywhere. And so I found Fox Studio. And so I towed up to the gate, and I conned them a little bit. I said, I heard the transportation department wants to see that car. And they said, okay, go down here.
You cold called them and you lied to them?
Yes.
It's a great fib. It's a great fib.
So he said, go down here and turn left and so forth. So I got in there, and then the transportation coordinator, he made me aware of all the other people in the studios and
Nice.
gave me addresses and phone numbers and everything. So for 3 days, I hauled that car around. I got pictures of Bill Cosby sitting in it,
Nice.
Michael Landon, and Smothers Brothers, and all kinds of people.
That is so fun.
Which I hardly knew who they were, but it was great. And just,
What a brave thing to do. What a
Yep.
brave thing to do. Roll back a little bit and tell me, what was the very beginning of your love of cars?
Well, when I was in high school, I was drawing pictures and things like that instead of studying like I was supposed to. I didn't, and a lot of times we used to put the little books, what we call
Yes.
little pages.
Yes.
We put those in a history book, and we'd be supposedly reading the history book, but we're
You're
looking
drawing
at,
cars.
Yeah. In fact, which reminds me, the first time I met Jay Leno,
Oh.
I was at a car show, outdoor car show, and he goes walking through the parking lot. So I walked up to him and I said, "Hi, Jay." I said, "I'm Gene Winfield, custom car guy." He backs up and he looks at me. "You dirty so-and-so." He says, "You get me in trouble because of the history book thing."
Oh, no.
Yes.
You got him in trouble.
So for the next 2 years, every time I would see him, he would mention that to somebody else.
Hey, this is a troublemaker right here. Well, so you were a young kid. You were cranking on cars back then. But
Yeah.
I think another thing that's really part of your legacy is paint. Is the
Well,
paint, custom
see,
paint.
first I was racing,
Okay.
and I was building flathead engines, and I was porting and relieving them and doing all kinds of stuff, and I bought stuff from Edelbrock and Phil Wyan was a friend of mine, and people like that. So I did a lot of racing, street racing, and then I finally went to El Mirage first time, and I stopped at SoCal Speed Shop, and Alex Exidius was the owner of SoCal. And Alex is still with us. He's 97, I think,
Wow.
now.
Young guy.
But, yeah. So anyway, he had a guy working for him, and he told me how to set up the tires, how much pressure, and the jet size for the carburetors and all that. And so I said, well, how fast do you think I will go? Well, with your gear ratio and your tires, you should go 120. Well, I was hoping for 110 or anything like that. In fact, I was in the Century Toppers Club, which I created, and theoretically you're supposed to go over 100 to be in the club.
Okay.
So, but anyway, I went to the dry lakes, El Mirage Dry Lake, and he says, by the way, he says, if he says, keep your foot in it when you get going, you might hit a bump or something. Well, I hit the bump and I was in the air. I thought,
no.
yeah,
Over 100 miles an hour in the air.
So I backed off of it, and then it made me mad. I put my foot in the carburetor again, and I turned 112. So then I got right back in line without doing anything.
Oh, wow.
Didn't change nothing.
Yeah, that's
and I
right.
turned 121.7. So
That's fantastic.
it was just fabulous.
Well over 100.
Yes.
That's fun.
It was
Hey,
fabulous.
I guess that's kind of like your theory now. No matter what, keep your pedal to the metal, even
That's
if you
right.
hit a bump, right?
Exactly right.
Oh my goodness. You've had a lot of experience with people in Hollywood. Tell me some more. You said Bill Cosby, the Smothers Brothers, some of these big names,
Yeah.
but Jay Leno. But you've also Blade Runner. Tell me a little bit about that whole
Well,
set, the time on the set there.
on Blade Runner,
What year was this? Do you remember?
79, 1979 and 80, 1980. So they called me because I had already been doing a few things with different studios, and so the art director called me. He knew who I was, and he said, "I want you to bid on this movie."
Okay.
So they wanted 54 cars. Could you imagine building 54 cars from scratch?
Really?
The whole bodies, everything. So, and I knew that they'd never be able to afford it, but I had to bid it.
Yes,
So-
you wanted the job, I'm sure.
Yes. So I had to hire an accountant to help me punch the numbers, and so it took me almost 3 months to bid it.
Oh,
And so then they, when they got ready to do it, like I say, I knew they wouldn't be able to afford the whole 54 cars. See, the director wanted was a traffic jam.
oh, I see.
He wanted this traffic jam of all futuristic cars, and which we did. But they changed the number, and so they had me. They start out by having me make 27 cars. So then I got the contract, and I started building them and producing them and so forth. And then they changed after a month or so. They changed it to 25 cars instead of 27. Same money,
Sure.
but different cars.
Sure.
See, just two more of this and one less of that, you know.
So about the same then for you.
So it was all worked out great.
Yeah.
So
How did you set up the system?
well, I had to rent 2 other shops.
Okay.
So I had 3 shops going.
Yeah.
And I finally hired up to 50 people.
Wow.
50 people. I hired everything that walked.
Good and bad, right?
Yeah. And so we were working 50 people in 3 different shops, and we got them cranked out.
And you had concept drawings because obviously they wanted
Yeah.
futuristic cars.
Yeah, speaking of the drawings now, they were drawn by Sid Mead.
Okay.
Sid Mead, who I became friends with.
Yes.
I knew who he was. I had met him in Detroit a long time ago. And
Tell me who Sid Mead is.
Sid Mead is he just died 2 months ago.
Goodness.
And but he's the greatest futuristic designer that they ever had. He just draw all kinds of crazy things, you know, and he has about 7 books out.
Yes.
I have all of them but one. And in the books he even has like futuristic dogs and
He was living the
horses.
future, right?
Oh yeah, I mean
Always.
it was unbelievable.
Wonderful.
Unbelievable, this
So
guy.
I'm sure it was magical working with a guy like that.
Yes, it was great. And then Ridley Scott was the director of Blade Runner.
Sure.
And he was real particular. He come over and we were working on the bottom of a car called the Spinner. One of the major police car, we called it the Spinner.
Right.
So he had me detail the bottom of it, just going crazy. Well, in the movie, you don't see it at all. It's in the rain. It's in the rain.
It goes to show, right?
Yeah.
You work all that time on the bottom of that car and never even see it in the movie. What was it like working with Harrison Ford? You said you met him quite a few times.
Yeah, he was good. He was a pretty cool character.
Yeah.
And I met him and talked with him in between takes, you know, and things like that. So it was good. I met a lot of important people, a lot of actor and actresses, and I never thought to give their autograph. You
They
know?
should have wanted your autograph.
Yeah, now they're all gone.
Oh,
you know?
shoot, yeah.
So I didn't get anybody's autograph. And,
Well, I think back then you were a big shooter yourself.
Well,
You
I
were
was-
working hard on the set,
Yeah.
and you're focused. You're focused. right?
I met Lauren Green. I designed a car for him, and then he was going to build it separately. And I made 5 trips to Hollywood to Lauren Green's house. And by the way, he had 2 white German Shepherd dogs.
We did. White.
Pure white. I'd never
Wow.
seen them. Beautiful animals.
Beautiful. He was a nice
Yeah.
guy.
Yeah, very nice guy.
Nice guy.
And so I bid on building him that car, and he finally okayed it after we changed the design several times. And then he says, "Okay, you get in touch with my attorney on Monday, and we'll get you some money so you can get started."
Good.
So I called his attorney on Monday. His attorney talked him out of it. Yeah,
Oh,
he said.
shoot.
He says, "Put your money in real estate."
Oh. darn it all.
Really tore me up.
I would have been mad too.
Yeah.
Called that turning back up.
Yeah.
Well, when you talk about the industry itself of customizing and really showing your personality in a vehicle, tell me what some of your philosophy is.
Well, my philosophy was and still is that I can do anything. I can build anything. Anybody can give me a drawing of whatever it is, and I can construct it and build it and make it run or drive or whatever.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, obviously, since you were building cars that were really they were future. They were of the future. And you were building something that was you may never even see.
Like Back to the Future 2. I built one of the DeLoreans that they lifted to fly.
Interesting.
It only weighed 600 pounds. I borrowed a DeLorean from a friend of mine, took a complete fiberglass mold off of it, made a fiberglass DeLorean, and made it look like stainless steel.
Yes.
And then made the tires fold under so they could lift it to fly.
I remember the movie. Both of these movies. Yeah.
So I had a lot of fun.
I bet. I think the dreaming, the fact that you were able to dream, really get out of the box and create something brand new.
Yeah.
Tell me, right behind us, we have a whole bunch of people working here at Autorama, and you're able to teach them some things.
Yes, we chopped this car. Now this is an old Ford, 1950 Ford that Bill Hines started. Yeah. Now Bill Hines was
Tell me about Bill Hines.
Well, he was a legendary guy, just like me, and we'll say up until the 80s. There was only a few people doing this throughout the whole world.
And he's from Detroit, right?
Yes, he was from Detroit. So Bill Hines had built this car up to a point, and then somehow it got away and got away from him, and it was lost. Yes. Nobody knew where it was for many years. Oh yeah,
this car behind us got lost.
Yes, and they found it in some kind of a swamp.
Oh no, somebody's back swamp.
So it's all the back bumper and everything's all rusted out. But so a friend of mine found it and bought it, and he's had it sitting in his yard for I don't know, probably 5 or 10 years. And then we needed a car to chop in the show here, so I talked him into chopping this one.
Let's do it here.
And somebody had put a 4-door roof on this car, which was a 2-door car, so it was all messed up.
Yeah.
So we changed a lot of stuff, and my good buddy Kent here, he's from Kentucky, and so he's been doing most of the work because I was in the hospital last week, and so I've been weak, and so I haven't done a whole lot of work at this time.
You've traveled all around the world.
Everywhere.
Tell me some of your favorite things you've done around the world.
Well, I went to Finland and Sweden. I've been to Sweden 4 or 5 times, and in Finland.
What did you do while you were there?
Well, I worked on the car, chopped the car. So I chopped the car in Finland 3 years in a row, and but then I got in Finland. I broke my hip.
Oh shoot!
I was at the dance floor, and Billy Gibbons was a guest there, ZZ Top, and so I was sitting there waiting for Billy to come back from the hotel. We were going to go up on the stage and present an award to one of the local people, and so I had to go to the bathroom. So I cut across the dance floor at night. It was pitch black, and I tripped over that thing that they have the cords.
Oh shoot!
The cords under it, and tripped over that, and my girlfriend fell on top of me and broke my hip. Then while I was in the hospital, I got pneumonia, so I was in the hospital 24 days.
Oh my goodness!
And then somehow my office guy said, let's create money to get Gene home.
Yes.
So they created this fund, GoFundMe. Yeah, and then so in 3 days, they developed $78,000.
Wow.
And so I flew home on a medical flight.
Oh my goodness! Feel the love.
It was wonderful.
Feel the love of your fans, right?
It's unbelievable.
Goodness sakes, that is
unbelievable.
Wonderful love for you, right? You go around the world, though. I mean, all this experience that you have, and you're able to teach it.
Yeah.
But you pack it in there. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well,
decades of experience.
I absorb, everything, and I remember. I have a good memory.
Yes.
And so then, I do metalworking classes all over. I've done them in England and Australia and all over. In fact, one time I went to Australia and they lined up 2 cars for me to chop. But then while I was there, I chopped another one. So I chopped 3 cars. 3 cars in 2 weeks in Australia.
That's a lot of work.
Yeah.
And that's a short amount of time.
They build a beautiful Cadillac over there called the King Cad, and they flew me over there to paint it.
Yes.
And it took 6 years to build this car.
Oh my gosh.
And it had over $600,000 in it.
No pressure.
Yeah.
No pressure.
So I painted
You
it
just paint
for 3 days. I painted that Cad, and it was beautiful. It
What
still
color?
exists. Purple.
Purple.
Shades of purple. One of my favorites.
Yes, I do love purple as well.
Yeah.
I do love purple. What are some things that you'd like to share with people, techniques, or other guys that are wanting to do this? What are some of the things you'd like to leave them with?
The main thing I always tell a bunch of young people is that when you get an idea, stick with it and stay with it, even though it's going to be hard knocks and things that maybe don't go right. And so if you goof up a piece of metal, just throw it away and start with another piece. It's a matter of just following through and getting it done. And so I always tell them to, no matter what, just follow it through and it'll pay off.
One of the things that I think that's really interesting in your techniques, we're seeing a lot of old style work here. But what about new technology? How has that played a part in your career?
Well, the technology of the new tools and equipment and the welders and things, they're all way far better than when I started. I still do a lot of gas welding, and almost nobody does that anymore. But I teach people how to gas weld and hammer weld and things like that. And it's an old style process, but it still works.
Sure
works
does.
the best.
Yeah. Now, when you were doing these futuristic cars in Blade Runner, and now fast forward this many years, did you see any styles that you created in Blade Runner? Do you see any of those styles driving around the road now?
Oh yeah.
Like what?
Yeah.
What manufacturers copied some of that style?
Well, Chrysler did some, and Ford. In fact, I did several. I did 9 show cars for Ford.
You did?
Ford Motor Company.
Okay.
Yeah, over a period of 8 years, I did 9 separate show cars, and what they would do is they would give me what they call an engineering prototype. Now, this is a car that they created with a bunch of parts and pieces, and every part on that car has a number and a different color. So then they test with it. They go out to the track and they test, and they keep changing these parts before you ever see it in production.
Sure.
So this one particular Fairlane, they flew the car from Detroit to San Francisco, and then trucked it to Modesto, and then I had to build a special room for this car so that the public couldn't see it, because it's a year before announcement time.
Oh gosh, yeah, okay, top secret.
Yes.
Near Modesto.
So I did that, and then that particular car, see, that was in 1965.
Okay.
And so I worked on it for 3 months and then give it to Ford. And so they had this new show car, and they showed it in all the new car shows, New York, San Francisco, Los Angeles, like that. And then since these cars that I started with are what they call the engineering prototype, there's no serial number. So they theoretically can never be sold.
Right.
So Ford Motor Company gave this car to a dealer to make a race car out of it.
Oh.
Well, they didn't. They pulled the engine out and used the engine and shoved the car out in the weeds, and it sat there for several years. And this guy found it, and he's a Fairlane nut. I mean, really a Fairlane nut. He knows all about them. In fact, you can give him a part number, any Ford part number, and he'll tell you what year and what it's for.
That's crazy.
It is.
Did he end up buying it?
So yeah, he got it. He got it from the dealer. So he was in Minnesota, and he took it there. And so he spent 6 years reconstructing and repairing and recreating this car. So it's exactly like it was when I did it.
Wow.
In fact, my name was still in the rear bumper where they sent it to the chrome shop. It said Gene Winfield. And
that's so fun.
So he flew me to Minnesota to paint it, and then I found the upholstery and the steering wheel and the shifter and everything,
Perfect.
all original for that car. And so this just the very last Barrett Jackson in January, I was back there with him and went up on the block and we sold it for $215,000. So
$215,000.
Yes.
That's quite an honor, Gene.
Yes.
Wasn't that quite an honor to see that
really,
car
it
that you created
was beautiful.
before back then?
Yeah.
You gonna teach me how to weld?
Sure.
All right.
I used to work with lightning, but it's just in the sky, not down here on metal. Okay, watch you, sir. All right, Gene. That made that look really easy. Are you sure I can do that? Okay. Okay, are you gonna do it again? Okay, goodbye. Okay, you go very slight tilt, and you just slowly drag it, yeah? Turn me on. How'd I do? Can I try it again? Okay. You gotta help me. Ready?
When you talk to the young kids, you were talking about not giving up. What's your philosophy?
Every day is a school day, and I use that a lot. I have it on two different T-shirts, and I tell people that all over the world. Every day is a school day, and I'll show you in a few minutes my shirt with that on it. So
When you say that, every day is a school day, what do you mean?
well, you learn something new every day, no matter what it is. Whether you're a young guy at 10 or 12 years old, or if you're an older guy at 40 years old, if you just keep your eyes and ears open, you're going to learn something new every single day. Doesn't matter whether it's construction or if it's with food or whatever, but you learn something every single day.
Keeps you young, doesn't it?
Yeah. Every day is a school day.
You said it, Gene.